as far as the building boom in the United States. Both the National Association of Realtors and the National Association of Home Builders has revised its forecast to indicate that we'll be in a very, very long-standing upside to the construction industry through 2029.
Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of building and remodeling by holding in-depth conversations with forward thinkers from the design and construction industry, as well as other folks who simply know a lot of good stuff. Each episode of Construction Disruption digs into an industry that's always evolving with new products, designs, practices, and technologies. Construction Disruption, of course, is created and sponsored by Isaiah Industries, a manufacturer of specialty metal roofing systems and other building materials. I'm Todd Miller of Isaiah Industries. Our co-host is our sales manager, Seth Heckerman. And then we also have creative director Ryan Bell and content creator Ethan Young as our behind-the-scenes production team. So, Seth, I have to tell you, did something I haven't done in a long time this past weekend. I went out and bought an aquarium and 2 fish to put in it.
Really?
Have not had fish in a long time. I enjoy watching them. It's very peaceful. I decided they needed names, but yet they say you really shouldn't give them real personal names and get too attached to fish. They don't have the longest lifespans necessarily. So I named the one fish 1, and I named the other fish 2. That way, if one fish dies, I still will have 2. Okay, that's your dad joke of the day. Ba-dum-bump. Okay. Hey, thanks so much for joining us here again on Construction Disruption. Today's guest comes to us on great recommendation from a previous Construction Disruption guest, Universal design expert Rosemary Rossetti. Our guest today is Robert August. Robert is the president of North Star Synergies, and he's also a renowned national and international real estate strategist. Over the last 40 years, Robert has helped merchandise more than $25 billion, yes, billion with a B, dollars worth of residential, resort, retail, recreational, commercial, institutional, industrial, and governmental real estate, as well as other business products and services. Robert is the founder and president of North Star Synergies, which is an executive business development strategy firm based in Centennial, Colorado. North Star offers management, marketing, and sales consulting in the real estate industry and beyond. I know that Robert's great experience and his expertise with building projects will allow him to provide us really some great details on things that are disrupting the construction industry right now and things that are going to continue to disrupt our industry going into the future. Robert, welcome to Construction Disruption. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today with you and Seth and certainly Ryan and Ethan. And thank you for affording me the opportunity to be with you today.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Well, like me, Robert, you've been in this industry for a little while. I've been around about 40 years in the industry as well. Before we get into what you're doing today to help your clients, tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit about how you got started in the real estate and development business industry.
Well, I was very, very, very fortunate to grow up in an entrepreneurial background. And our key family businesses were in the real estate construction industry. My mother's family was in the construction arena with finishes, interior finishes primarily, walls, flooring, etc. And my father's family was in the wine, spirits, and real estate industry. And you might say, well, why were they in the real estate industry? They owned all of their own real estate free and clear. They learned, my great-grandfather came to the country and started out as a peddler selling spirits at the waterfront in Philadelphia and would go to the various steel yards and other manufacturing plants and at the breaks would sell wine and spirits. And as time progressed, he rented a store and founded his own company. Then he bought the store, and then he started leasing warehouses. Then he bought the warehouses, and then he leased a plant. And then he bought the plant. And then he built other plants and other real estate investments. So we actually got started as a family business in real estate in 1891. My great-grandfather could never beat his biggest competitor. So in 1911, 20 years later, he bought them and he bought their real estate, free and clear. They were founded in 1823. So in essence, the legacy of our corporation, our family business, goes back to 1823 in the United States.
Wow.
So I was taught at an early age. I was very, very, very lucky. My father was third generation and had the good fortune of being schooled and educated at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business. And so growing up for me was an education in the business and an education in real estate as well. So that's my initial foray. And then later in my career, after my educational direction, I was going into the family business, and at the ripe old age of 17, going to a school that competed directly with Ohio State University and has for many years, the Pennsylvania State University, was only one of two schools in the United States at the time that had a labor management relations program. And I'm the only one in my generation that I know of that ever stayed in one major while going to school. And it was labor management relations. And our company was being unionized, and my father felt that it would be good for me to get a background in that arena. So I matriculated there, and then came back, went into the family business, and realized that after a couple of years that it was not necessarily going to be mine, and as the ability to move forward. So I ventured into real estate full time and worked in the customer service department of the largest home builder in the United States at the time. Had 214 builder franchises throughout the United States. And Seth and Todd, my job was customer service. And I spent 2 years dealing with negativity. Nobody ever called except one customer in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, Mrs. George, ever to say thank you. Everybody complained. And when you talk about supply chain disruption today, I was in the midst of it in 1972, 73, and 74, and learned how to overcome it. And so many of the companies today just don't get it, whether they're builders or manufacturers or vendors. They don't know how to deal in the negative situation to interrelate a positive spin and a positive direction in order to communicate and accept responsibility immediately and share with people when you know that you're going to be late. You need to jump in and tell people that you're going to be late for whatever reason is. There's nothing more important in business than truth and fact. And as Mark Twain once said, I never have to worry about lying when I'm always telling the truth.
That's absolutely right.
So in essence, my foray into construction went to work with Ridge Homes outside of the Philadelphia area. And I learned how to parlay my labor management relations experience in quasi-collective bargaining with all of the consumers and builders and regional managers that I had to work with. And then I saw everybody, a lot of people were passing me by, and I found out they were because they had graduate degrees. So I went back to school and earned a graduate degree in management, an international graduate degree in management. And I was intrigued by the international spectrum since our family business imported and exported, and I already felt that I had a leg up. So I earned a graduate degree in international management from the American Graduate School of International Management, which the name is the sidekick name Thunderbird, has always been known as the top international graduate school for business, not just in the United States but the globe, according to U.S. News and World Report and a host of other publications. And the University of Arizona State University acquired the school after 70 years. And so I guess I am now an alumni of Arizona State University in international management. And then I went on to work directly with a builder developer in Philadelphia. And we were still suffering with supply chain disruption. And lo and behold, learned I was thrown into the business. We couldn't develop the property as quickly. And instead of handling sales and marketing right away, I jumped into purchasing. And we had a large master plan community north of Philadelphia in Allentown, Pennsylvania, that we were launching. And I learned the business inside and out from the standpoint of working every day with one company, one master plan community, and developing the strategies, tactics to move it forward. And within a year, we were the number one building company in the Lehigh Valley, which is Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton. And you all are in the metal roofing arena. And the company, Bethlehem Steel, almost simultaneously, the day that we opened for our grand opening for Country Crossing, Bethlehem Steel declared bankruptcy and eventually closed down its shop and went out of business.
Right.
So in essence, I figured out how to sell real estate and how to deliver an outstanding product that was as customer service free as possible while dealing with supply chain disruption, and making a difference in the marketplace.
So you've seen a lot of challenges over that time. I'm curious, what were some of the root causes of the supply chain issues, back in the early 70s? Was that a lot related to the oil embargo or other things as well?
So the anomaly that took place in the early 70s was the fact that, yes, there was a gas situation that took place actually in 1973. Oil and gas became extremely expensive and eventually was put back to a normalcy within a number of months. In 1981, it took place again. But there was a difference in 81. And in fact, if you look at a gallon of gas on the value of $1 today, that same gallon of gas would be equivalent to $12.28 today. And most people don't understand. But needless to say, to jump into the disruption situation, the perfect building boom took place. We won't call it a storm. We could call it a storm of excitement and profit. And what happened was that there was such a big building boom worldwide that building materials were just difficult to get a hold of. There was not a problem, for example, with paints and certain glues and vinyls. You need rosins, and we're having a rosin shortage now. And we're having a glass shortage, and we're having so many different, and a chip shortage, of course. We didn't have that. We had manufacturing plants moving at full speed. But as a result, the American economy was doing so well, shipping building materials all over the world, that we didn't have enough for our own families and our own customers. And also what happened, many of the countries started buying our lumber as a commodity and would be willing to pay much more than we were. And most people don't realize that the harbors in Japan were filled. Their warehouses were not warehouses like in Ohio or the rest of the country. The warehouses were in the water. They would actually designate areas in the harbor ports where they would just drop the lumber in and seal it before they dropped it in, and it would stay there until they needed it. So they were buying futures. The other thing that you may recall, and Seth, you might have had some friends who had homes built before 72. And as I'm looking at your face smiling, you can remember walking into a pink bathroom and getting scared because you don't want to be called a sissy. And so in essence, at the end of 72, actually beginning of 73, white became a standard building product in bathrooms and powder rooms throughout the United States. And why? I was closing homes with a Bayberry blue water tank for a water closet for a toilet. A tank top might have been pink. The toilet seat could have been gold, and the basin could have been ebony. And all of the colors were standard. There was no extra charge. It was just a question of saying, I want an all-black bathroom or I want an all-black toilet. And we would deliver it. And then we couldn't because we couldn't find these colors. So everything became standardized. Also, if you go into that 1972 or 71 home and you pick up the carpet, you'll find number one tongue and groove oak flooring beneath the carpet. And why? It was a standard product. But in 1973, it was no longer a standard product because we couldn't get the oak flooring. It was being shipped all over the world. And as a result, the carpet became more of a standard feature, and it was a bonus or an extra in those early days. And then it became standardized because the mills could create carpet very quickly. So much that when we transitioned, we offered all of our customers carpet. And we had poppy red carpet. We had seafoam blue carpet. We had all these imaginable carpets and then the customers started to realize that it didn't look so good because they had all these different carpets in all the different rooms. So then we had to standardize the hallways and the open areas in different opportunities to buy the carpet versus the bedrooms. The bedrooms are easy. But when you have all the different variegation of carpets, a lot of customer service issues would take place. So and I can go on and on. I mean, it wasn't just one product. It was every manufactured product. It was roofing. It happened to be windows and doors. Of course, appliances. Everybody talks about the gourmet kitchen. I was closing homes with kitchens that had Whirlpool, General Electric, Gibson, and Amana appliances in the same kitchen. And we would call those, well, you're getting a gourmet kitchen. And the customer would say, well, I want it all one brand. So in order to appease them, we learned about the art of substitution. And we also decided as a corporation to, of course, deliver equal or better. And in most instances, because of the supply chain disruption at that time, we always increased the value of the products that were in short or not being able to be delivered due to either shortages, missed shipments, or damages. And now we see the same thing happening in supply chain disruption, and we see closings taking place today with a lot of substitutions, and even to the point where you can't close a home without a range. You need a range in order to pass or to receive a certificate of occupancy. So we're seeing ranges and other appliances put in that are refurbished. And when the new appliances can come, we're taking out the refurbished appliances and installing the new. So there's a lot. I mean, I can spend literally, Todd, talking to you for hours just about the correction of supply opportunities.
Very interesting. So how long back in the 70s, how long did that take to work its way out of the system, and did it actually require a decline in number of home builds to do that? And what do you think is going to be happening here as far as how long this will last and when we'll get out of it?
It was what you and I would call a petering effect. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of changes that were also going on internationally with various countries, and a lot of communities, projects, commercial buildings, and campuses were stalled. One interesting statistic that I can share with you is that the supply chain was so deep that if you took every every country from Iran back through France and England, and you lined up all the construction vehicles. One of the building scientists had shared in a study that you would have cars, construction vehicles, loaders, etc., lined up all the way from Tehran, Iran, to Paris, France, and left over. I mean, it was just, that's how much activity. So the activity started to slow down, and not to a great degree, but at the same time, we went through an economic, I guess you would say, another trough where we slowed down economically in the United States, and we were able to catch up in the mid 70s. By 76, we were in another recession.
Right.
And at that point, the manufacturers were able to really catch up. There was a lot of remodeling going on, et cetera. So what happened was over the last 18 months, the figures have been changed as far as the building boom in the United States. Both the National Association of Realtors and the National Association of Home Builders has revised its forecast to indicate that we'll be in a very, very long-standing upside to the construction industry through 2029. 2029. And why? There is not enough housing for Americans. A lot of the housing is becoming obsolete. We, as an industry, have been building homes the same way for 80 years. And as a result, there's an obsolescence curve, the same way that, we can talk about different products and services. Cars are often made to last 3, 4, 5 years, depending upon the components that are put in. Many of the building materials need reparation. And one of the big things that we've also learned, and there'll be a lot of contradiction to what I'm going to share with you, but customer service is not the same as it was many years ago. We're not delivering homes that are defect-free as we did many years ago. I could never go to a closing with a shortage or a product that wasn't included. I could never go to a closing unless the customer signed off on the warranty, that making sure that everything was right. Because we realized early on in business that when you have satisfied customers, they will reduce your marketing expenses. And the companies that I work for are very, very, very intelligent. So we would never, the last thing you'd want is a customer to move into a home, who's complaining for the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 months, 6 months. You'll never turn them around. But when you deliver a product like you gentlemen do, that's to the standard of the excellent specifications that you share, you don't have as much problem with customer service. And so what happens is that, I was trained by some of the best people in business. I mean, my father was amazing, just an amazing, amazing gentleman, least materialistic person I ever met, and the most organized individual, and ran an amazing plant. My father-in-law was chairman of the board of a family business of glass fabrication companies. He had 16 plants throughout the United States. And every time I would go to my father and ask a question, I'd always go to my father-in-law and ask the same question when it dealt with business. And I never told them that I was going to talk to both of them. And as funny as it might sound, they were both graduated from the Wharton School of Business, both grew up in family businesses, different businesses. Their answers were exactly the same. And when you know that you're doing something right, you don't worry about doing something wrong. When you're on the right path, excellent outcomes occur. So the change today, what's so different is that there was a panic amongst all the manufacturers. There was a panic among all the distributors. And why? Because they didn't know how to handle supply chain disruption. They didn't know how to sit and tell the customers the truth. As a sales manager, Seth, that's what your customers are looking for. The more, the more that you can communicate. And I've had this discussion with the largest one of the executives in Colorado of the largest supply chain companies in the United States and frankly the world. And I said to him, he said, we had a discussion, we're catching up, and he said, I asked him how everything was going. He said, we just don't know what to do. And I said, what you need to do is call your customers every day. And I said, well, he said to me, well, why would we call every day? I said, why do your children need your love? Why do your children need your trust? Why do your children need your support? Well, because I'm raising them. And I said, it's the same thing with your customers. They need to hear from you. When they don't hear from you, they think the absolute worst. Now, if you let them know that you're going to call every other day, or twice a week, that's okay too. As long as you're communicating with them and letting them know exactly what's going to happen. I spoke to Jeff several months later and I said, how's everything going? He said, well, we've got longer time deliveries for windows and doors now from all the major manufacturers. And I said, and how are your customers taking it? He said, because we've communicated, like you suggested, they realize that we're not the only supplier that's running into these issues. And they appreciate our communication more than you can imagine. So
that's fantastic. Good advice.
And the other thing is you won't lose those customers. My father had a theory that 1/3 of your customers you'll always keep, Seth. 1/3 will be in transition, and 1/3 you're never going to get. So when you realize you may not have the opportunity to enjoy the business, the least you can do is ask for referrals, and always ask for referrals. Whether it's a long-time customer or a customer in transition. The more you communicate, the more you ask for business, the more you introduce your outstanding products and service, the more business you're going to write.
And you're right. And that communication is a real differentiator in today's marketplace, whereas I think 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago was the norm. Today, it's the differentiator for companies that makes them stand apart. So good stuff. You had mentioned how, housing and building hadn't really changed in 80 years. And, we're facing a situation coming up where we've got a lot of obsolete housing stock. And of course, we also look at the numbers in terms of consumers and aging consumers. So we see the housing shortage that's occurring and going to continue. What are some of the things that you think going forward, property owners, homeowners are really going to be looking for that perhaps are going to be new to construction and to housing?
Well, the things that are new are not so new. It's a question that what we learn in life, and you'll smile again. Engineers think their products and services are the very best, and that they'll sell all by themselves because they created it after doing countless hours of research, laboratory work, design, replanning, restaging, and finally delivering a great product. It doesn't work that way. If you don't let people know you're in business, you're not going to develop the business that you can. So there are a lot of, it's interesting. When we talk about solar application, there's passive solar and there's active solar. And as I learned from one corporation many years ago, active homes are for passive people and passive homes are for active people. So with a passive home, you let the sun do its work. With an active home, there's a lot of application where you may manually run around moving shades, putting shutters on the windows to restore the sun. There's just a lot of different applications. And active also gets involved with electronics. And we were very, very fortunate to always be on the cutting edge and still are today. When you read some of the information about me, it was probably from an older area. Next month marks the 50th year that I've been in business.
Okay. Wow.
In the construction industry. And in the process, solar is not new, and solar will become more indicative. we're working with one architectural firm called Danielian Associates that's a 53-year-old company. They're in Irvine, California. They work in 44 states and 15 countries. And they're doing a community, actually in Lancaster, California. They're working with 6 different parcels that all feed back into one grid so that everyone can share electricity and everyone can share the direct gains from the sun. A total of about 500 homes in these 6 communities. And they'll all be pulled together and work the energy. So, for example, if I don't use as much energy as Seth and you don't, Seth's going to have that energy because it's a net zero program, and we'll all be able to share the energy with one another. There's a tremendous amount of products that are being developed right now. I was very fortunate to get involved with the National Association of Home Builders in 1983. I went to the International Builders Show and received an outstanding award as the Director of Marketing and Sales of the Year. And I found out later that I was the youngest person ever to receive the award. And I was coming off the stage having received this award, and a gentleman by the name of Bob Oyer from Kansas City, a native Frenchman who came to Kansas City as a builder developer, and he came over to me and he said, this is such a great award. Now that you've won this award, the real gift is to give back to the industry and get involved in the industry. And I took it to heart. And one of the key things about the changes, one of the things he said, always adapt change. When I was a graduate student in graduate school, I learned that the most important word in business is flexibility. And between Mr. Boyer and school and growing up in the family business, I learned that you have to look for other changes. And in 1981, I created the first parade of homes on behalf of your Department of Energy of the United States of America. And we had 10 homes in 10 different price points scattered throughout Metro Denver. And I worked with the Solar Energy Research Institute of the Department of Energy, which became the National Research Energy Laboratory. Created a program with 10 different builders. And every one of those builders, when I was put in charge of this promotional opportunity, I sat down with them all. And I said, standard materials don't cut it. We have to be on the cutting edge. Our customers that are going to come to this show, we want them to steal a few bright ideas. They're all not going to be able to buy new homes. And this was 1981. And I recognized right away that the more innovation that I could create, it would stop and slow down the customers to really understand all the opportunities. And when I tell you, about Russian fireplaces, you might ask me, well, what's a Russian fireplace? Do you know what a Russian fireplace is?
I do not. I am curious now, though.
You lose in a masonry built fireplace on an exterior wall at 19 degrees. You lose the benefit, the efficacy of that fire.
Sure.
It's the only thing you're getting is a mental benefit. And as a result, a psychiatric benefit does not do well when it's 15 or 10 degrees below zero. And a Russian fireplace is actually built in the center of a home.
Okay.
And it's built in the center so that it radiates heat. And we started integrating a lot of different technologies from all over the world for this campaign. We had one builder by the name of John Kurowski who would be a great interview for you. John is literally the father of the Built Green movement in the United States of America. I don't know any builder that's received more accolade than John Kurowski. 303-972-8680. Operators are standing by right now at 303-972-8680. John is the president of Kurowski Development and Kurowski Custom Homes and Remodeling. And John was building in one of our communities that I was marketing and selling, and was the most advanced builder of the day. And he's still building today in 2021. And here we were, and we were integrating, before there was Energy Star appliances, we were looking for the equivalent of the best appliances. We were looking for the benefit of the best types of building materials that would absorb heat inside the building. And we also looked at window placement. And you can save a tremendous amount of energy just by placing a home correctly on the building site, so that you're picking up direct gain from the sun. We learned just a whole host of little things that in working with the energy companies, the water companies, the water districts, that we were able to integrate. We studied what was going on in Sweden and Germany with regard to energy conservation and the building materials. Triple pane glazed windows. Our builders weren't quite ready for that, but those were being created, 50 years ago. And we were lucky at that point, just becoming in a code to go from single pane glazed windows to dual pane glazed windows. But the changes that have evolved today, are striking. And the windows and doors are much better today. And there is a tremendous amount of product development through corporations like Andersen and Pella and Marvin. Marvin's, they're all great companies, and there's so many more. And when you start to evolve, one of the things that I would tell the audience today, always go to the manufacturer and ask for their research and design material. Why are they delivering the product that they are today? What are the consumers telling them? Seth, as you take note, I'll share an adage with you. If the if the customers don't like your product, they'll let you keep it. We constantly do research. We constantly want to understand how a product is being used and how it can be improved upon. We also want to make sure that that we're integrating service into a program that's unbelievable. But what are the changes in the products today? Mr. Rashkin, Sam Rashkin, who was with the EPA for many years, the Environmental Protection Agency, founded Energy Star with the team there. And isn't it interesting? Energy Star was designed by the EPA, not the Department of Energy. Then he created WaterSense. Then from WaterSense, he created Indoor Air Plus. And in each of the promotional campaigns that he introduced, it's following guidelines. It's following protocols that can be integrated into the home, into the commercial building. And what do we see today? We see a lot of improvements in all the mechanical systems. We see a lot of upgrades and standardization in electrical, plumbing, heating, venting, air conditioning, air purification. If it's one thing that the market's taught us over the last 20 months, is basically, to take care of your existing home. We're spending so much time indoors today. 90% of the time that we spend in each day is spent indoors. And yet, are furnaces up to speed? Are they delivering the right air purification throughout the home, throughout the commercial building? And we found study after study, and this goes back to my labor management relations. There were studies that were done with Western Electric many, many years ago that revealed the same things that we're having today. When you have bad indoor air quality, your workers do not perform. You and I would call that the Dove theory. So why would we have mediocre homes? Why would we have mediocre commercial buildings? And finally, there's a wake-up call. And one of the outcrops or benefits or the silver lining of the COVID situation is the fact that we're improving all of our mechanical systems. There are companies, Wellness Within Your Walls, great corporation. We've helped the company launch and work through various marketing and management opportunities. Another great interviewee is Jillian Pritchard Cook. And Jillian is setting the stage and has been for years. And about 5 years ago, she began to launch Wellness Within Your Walls that helps you understand the toxins that are in your homes, the chemical off-gassing that's taking place. Our government only has about 30 different items that they say, whoa, those things are bad for you. There's 88,000 bad chemicals and toxins. And Jillian worked with builders and developers and manufacturers throughout the United States and also the globe, instructing them. And how did she get involved? She had a wake-up call, and she shared the story with me about 5.5 years ago. And we were both at a National Association of Home Builders meeting, and I saw her. She's a top-notch, acclaimed international and national interior designer. Has had her own firm for decades. And I saw her in a leading supplier council. You might consider jumping into that as well. A great group of people, about 100 companies, national. And there was Jillian at the National Association of Home Builders meeting for leading supplier council. And we spoke afterwards. I said, gee, how come you were in this meeting? I would have expected you to be in design or whatever. She said, well, Robert, she said, I had environmental cancer. And I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. And I said to her, what can I do to help you? She said, well, what do you mean? I said, I'm on a flight right now, on a movement, to overcome anything dealing with the environment in the sense of improving it. And she said, well, why? I said, I too had just gone through environmental cancer. And I was diagnosed, and I had cancer in my kidney, and the doctors had done a routine check with me and found that I spent a lot of time walking construction sites, sawdust, drywall, paint. And they told me that, they asked me how my sales were. I said, they were really great. They said, we would hope so, because unfortunately now you have environmental cancer. And I put it into, I had it taken care of, put the cancer in remission. And now for a little bit more than 5 years, I've been working with Jillian to promote wellness all over the globe.
So as part of that, you're working with manufacturers and then also builders and helping them how to figure out how to build healthier buildings.
Absolutely. And the key, it's interesting, when you look at the evolution, of different trends over the last 40 years. When I did the energy conservation, we call it the Solar Energy Research Institute Parade of Homes. I didn't share with you, there was so much interest at the time. And how many people do you think came just in a 2-week visitation of 10 homes scattered throughout metropolitan Denver? How many people do you think came out in 1981?
Golly. I would guess 250,000. Maybe I'm high.
You're high, but if you can imagine, we had well over 125,000 people, which was huge.
Right.
I mean, these builders, they were lucky to get 20, 30 people a week, as independent builders. And here, in 2 weeks, we had over 125,000 people. But the key with the program was energy. And because of Colorado, we looked at water conservation as well. Most of our water leaves the state and feeds the Midwest and the Southwest. And as a result, water conservation is very, very important in the Rocky Mountain region. And the next wave that we did, we found that not only energy and water conservation and design trends, but we started jumping into smart technology over 30 years ago. And from smart technology, we continued to enhance it. Then we went into universal design, and you had Rosemary Rossetti as a guest. I put together the program for Rosemary. And in doing so, I helped raise a tremendous amount of money. And through material, in-kind service, and some contributions of certainly time and kindness. But the real key was delivering state-of-the-art, delivering a home that could be used as a testing environment as well as an educational environment. And with all of these things, it became apparent to continue to educate not only the building industry, but every industry that relates to construction, whether it be hospitality, resort, recreation. And then we spun into health and wellness. And through the work that we've been doing, the silver lining of COVID is that so many people want to improve their existing homes. So we're seeing a better lifestyle. We're seeing a better lifestyle indoors with regard to a lot of products. We're seeing a change in design. One of the other points that you'll see changes with, more pantry closets are being integrated. Most people don't know how the powder room became a standard feature in almost every home. And that took place in 1918, if you can imagine. People didn't want other people to come into their home. They had vestibule airlocks or entry airlocks. They had porches. And then delivery people would come and want to use the facilities. And so they started putting water closets and sinks in a room, and they called it a powder room.
Right off the front hallway a lot of times.
Right off the front hallway. You're correct, Todd. And as a result, you're seeing more changes today, not only in the pantries, but you know how many of the cabinets, when you look in most kitchens, there's about 18 inches to 24 inches to the top of the ceiling from where the cabinets break. Now the cabinets are being extended all the way up to the top of the ceiling to store canned goods. There was just an alarm that took place over the last couple of days where the media is saying that we may have food shortages because of the inability to get so many goods and services transported. Today, we have another issue, and I'm digressing a little bit, but we have a shipping issue. 20%, there's a 20% demand for truckers. Many of the truckers left and went into other industries.
Right.
The ports are 11% down on employees to help the harbors, to help the shipments coming in or leaving the harbors. And as a result, there's a slowness of delivery of goods and services. So each of these things, we're seeing more areas integrated into the design of homes as it relates to storing areas. We're seeing the opportunity to open parts of the home to put in material, and when the door is closed, the door automatically locks. We're seeing a lot of integration of locks being created throughout the entire home. We're also seeing the use of more wood flooring in the homes. We're also seeing a lot of really great products being introduced for stone and various aggregates being built back into the home. Brick coming back into the homes as well, in interior walls, and creating a feeling of comfort. But the real key, and we're also seeing, this is going to be another interesting trend, we're seeing panic rooms. Unfortunately, crime has been on the rise, and we've had panic rooms forever. I've been dealing, many of the communities we've built and sold over the years and marketed for other builders and developers were in the upscale price points and are today. And we had a number of homes that had panic rooms built into them. And so it's just another wave of concern with our socioeconomic direction in our country.
So what's a panic room, I have to ask?
If you know that you're about to be robbed or burglarized or somebody's invading your home, instead of going and confronting them, you go into a private room that nobody has the ability to enter.
A secure room, right.
It's completely secured.
Interesting.
And you have the ability, using separate phone equipment, separate communication, separate heating, venting, air conditioning, electrical, plumbing, completely separate from the rest of the home. So that if anything is tampered with outside of that room, you've got a freestanding building. And you also, in some of the panic rooms, have ability to get to the exterior without anybody knowing. But it's a secured environment.
Gotcha.
And it's completely, walking through a home, you would never know that this room exists.
So, are you finding builders are receptive to a lot to these new things? Are you finding some resistance from builders?
There's always resistance.
Yeah.
What most people don't understand, prior to the pandemic, it would take in a major market, a major metropolitan area, 75 different companies just to work with and try to manage as a builder to build a home. Now, because of the supply chain disruption, it's more along the lines of 125.
Right.
Because the only companies that you're really working with consistently on one project are typically your mechanical companies because nobody will warrant somebody else's work. So coming in and doing electrical, plumbing, HVAC, you'll probably stay in tune with one corporation to build that one home. But what's happening now, as I shared earlier, you can't get a stove maybe from company A. I mean, frankly, the folks at GE and Whirlpool have always been the number one and two suppliers of appliances. They're losing a lot of market share because they don't have the chips, they don't have the products, and the supplies coming in from China that they depended upon so much. And you're seeing companies reemerge or emerge to a greater height. Samsung, LG Electronics. Are you familiar with a company called Beko Blumberg?
I do not think so.
Beko Blumberg is the second leading supplier of appliances in all of Europe and the number one in the United Kingdom. And where is their international global headquarters? In Turkey. And they manufacture in Turkey and Thailand, and just announced that they're going to be building plants in the United States.
Okay, so we'll be hearing that name more then.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to visit with the gentleman who is the North American president of the company, I'd be happy to introduce you to Zach Elkin.
That would be neat.
And Zach has been a tremendous industry leader in innovation and design in appliances, having worked with so many different companies over the years. I first met him years ago at Sears when he was working in the Sears appliance division nationwide. Just a wonderful gentleman, very, very keen, very bright, and very innovative. So you're going to hear more about them along with a lot of other international players because we're looking at change. What I didn't share with you about the Russian Fireplace, and this is important, not only does it heat the interior of the home, but you use kindling wood rather than logs. And it's an 18-inch by 12-inch usually opening. And what's different about it, it doesn't come, the flue just doesn't come straight up through the home. It works on a series of chambers as it goes up, and it radiates the heat back into the masonry, usually a brick or a stone on the outside of the fireplace that continues to radiate heat throughout the entire home.
Makes every bit of sense, and they've probably been doing it for hundreds of years, and yet makes every bit of sense.
Over 200, almost, I think it'll be 300 years shortly. And an engineer brought it to the United States in the late 70s and started working with the students at MIT. His name is Basilio Lapashenko. And John Kurowski integrated a fireplace into a special idea home that we did with John in 1982, a year after the first event that we did for the Solar Energy Research Institute. And even in, we talk about the evolution of building products and design. You're seeing the homes growing a little bit more. The bedrooms are going to be a little bit bigger. There's a lot of storage area in our homes. We do a lot of work in Australia and New Zealand, and they're minimalists. Their homes are not as big as ours. They're not collectors. They don't collect Mickey Mantle and Harmon Killebrew baseball cards, and they also have different seasons than we often do, and their temperature is somewhat different in the southern hemisphere. But when you look at our products, we're also using our lower levels more. We've always been using lower levels in Colorado. We would refer to them as basements back east. And now we're creating windows and doors to have ingress and egress in these lower levels. They're no longer 7 feet, 8 feet. They're 10 feet high from floor to ceiling. And we're planning to integrate better utilities into these areas and environments as well. So we have more living space. And we're also seeing, of course, more workspace at home. Remote working is becoming more to the norm. So we're seeing several different offices created in homes as well.
Right.
And there's just a lot of different things. We're also seeing bidets return to the bathrooms. They were never a big hit in the United States, more European, but we're seeing that. We're also seeing technology. I had the good fortune to help develop the strategy for Disney's city called Celebration, a 5,000-acre master plan community inside Disney World. And we were very lucky to earn the opportunity to create the policy and procedure manual. And we even had plans through the local hospitals to test. We were testing at home in those days the urination and feces. And now today you can have testing done automatically from the comfort of your own water closet directly to a hospital. So there's a lot of innovation, or a medical center. There's a lot of innovation that's taking place, and we're learning more about our health and wellness through our own personal waste. So as a result, you're going to continue to see technology, creating wonderful things. I had an opportunity last week to meet a corporation from Edmonton, Canada, called Levin. Very smart home technology. We've already been working with another company called Swidget out of Toronto, and they were the key award winner last year for global innovation through the National Association of Home Builders. And they have modules that you put in a duplex receptacle plate where they can test the humidity, the temperature, movement going on throughout the home. And you can use this material. You, Todd, could be at your manufacturing plant. Steph could be out here in Denver, and you both want to know what's going on in your home. You just use your app, and you can tell, if anybody is walking around your home that shouldn't be walking around your home. And they're developing camera-sensitive material as well. So you're going to see a lot of evolution. You're going to see more concrete homes built in the next 3 and 4 years, more alternative solution. Another company that we work with, RSG 3D, they won a Global Innovation Award several years ago. And I met the principal owner of the company, Ken Gallagher, who would be another great interviewee. And Ken was a financier for many years on Wall Street, saw this opportunity come across his desk and bought the corporation.
So that's 3D printed homes?
The 3D printed homes are good. What the difference is between the 3D and this one has been tested at the University of California's structural engineering department. The walls, when installed correctly, withstand earthquakes beyond a 9.0 or greater on the Richter scale.
Goodness.
They have a 2-hour fire burn. Windproof. The folks in Kentucky just went through a horrible situation, let alone the other 5 states. The buildings that RSG 3D has withstand winds up to 300 miles an hour and more. And they don't, the other thing, those of you who like spiders coming in your home at 2 o'clock in the morning, no vermin or insects can penetrate the walls and the foundation. And then we ran into another company that creates concrete molded homes. And I saw them on LinkedIn, and I introduced them to NEHB, and they the finalists were announced this week, and Huga Technologies from Cordoba, Argentina, is now a finalist for their molded concrete homes. And so you're going to continue to see this type of technology. You're going to see more hemp being reintroduced into walls in the United States. and building products that will withstand more of this cataclysmic weather situations that we do have and will continue to have.
I liked your point earlier. Yeah, guys who are being reluctant to adopt some of these new technologies are going to be left behind because there are a multitude of factors forcing them. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, it takes time too, because you are working with so many different companies, and you who do you trust, and how do you know which is the right company to integrate? You have to do your research, and as a result, I'll never forget. And this has stayed with me forever. In 1990, I launched an upscale residential neighborhood in the Denver metro area called the Preserve, and we admitted 15 builders to build into the community. And I sent out the agreements to all the selected builders, and I kept calling this one builder, and he said, "Robert, I'm not going to sign the agreement until I know that Alan has signed it." And Alan was a top builder who was the most litigious builder that you could ever meet. Alan Brandt was, as a builder, was just a quintessential businessman. And he would pour through every contract or agreement and just make sure that it was correct, and it met the needs of his company and what was fair. And so David said, "As soon as you let me know that Alan signs a contract, I'll sign it immediately and drop it off immediately. Because if Alan signed that agreement, I know it'll be good for me." But if you find, you have to vet, you have to determine, David's research was Alan Brandt, but for the most part, how much research do people really do? And when there's an evolutionary change, this company, RSG 3D, it's a 28-year-old company, product-driven, not market-driven. Huga Technologies that I just spoke about, 79 years, from Italy to Argentina. It's like, tell me your story. If you don't share advertising, it just doesn't work.
Do you think a lot of the disruptors and influences coming up are going to be coming from overseas? You seem to have a good tune in on a lot of overseas companies, which is fantastic.
Yeah, there's so much that of course we learned from Europe. I mean, Europe is much older in a sense. I mean, as a country, of course, we were founded in '76 and had a tremendous European influence. And Europe has never stopped being cutting edge, especially in the construction industry. So there is so much, to learn, whether it's Italy, Spain, Portugal, of course, Germany, France, England, the United Kingdom, and so on. And then we have the Scandinavian countries that are so steeped in technology. Our MIT in Europe is the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden. And there's so much to be learning from all of these different areas around the globe that are very proactive. And we're also, we've had certainly over the years, decades and decades of companies through Japan and South Korea and certainly China that have mimicked what goes on here. We're still the number one technologically driven country in the world. But at the same time, we've got a lot of innovation that's being brought to our attention from other parts of the globe.
This has been fantastic, and we're really kind of pushing up against the end of our time. I'd love to have you back sometime. This is just your wealth of information. I have to ask, you're such a high energy guy and full of enthusiasm. Any secrets for where you get that from?
It's called a gene.
So it's been inherited.
Without a doubt. I mean, I had the greatest parents any kid could ever want. My father was a tremendous educator. My mother encouraged us to learn, and it was just a great environment.
That's neat.
And great supporting staff all over. But the other thing, I was very lucky to marry my best friend and not get caught up in stress and everything else. And I think that I would share with everyone that I've learned the hard way. You need to exercise. You need to eliminate foods from your diet, red meat if at all possible. Also, white flour, white refined sugar, fried foods, dairy. If you do that, you'll maintain a much better control of your life. And you need sleep, and every one of us is a little different. And exercise, and exercise, and exercise. But that's the key for me. And positive. The other main thing is none of us has a great 100% great day every day. We're dealt with negativity, and how do you handle that? And how do you learn how to work with people and become more relaxed? And I think that my pragmatic and academic education have really helped me in my formative years. I know that I can, as a result, I know that I can handle any situation and have over the years. And it's trying to be more flexible in approach, more open to learn, and more positive, and look for a solution for everybody in a win-win world. It's not about me. It's about everybody.
It's great advice, and that's how leaders are made, and good things happen. Hey, one of the things we like to do here at the end of each episode of Construction Disruption is something we call rapid fire questions. And this is a series of 7 questions that we ask our guests. You don't know what we're going to ask, but they can be from silly to serious, but they're just quick, fun questions. All we ask is you give your first response. You up to the challenge of trying this?
I'm ready for 21.
21. Okay. Well, I got a 7, but okay. Away we go. Favorite area of the United States?
Denver, Colorado.
That's, perfectly appropriate for you then. What subject do you wish that you knew more about?
Labor management relations, societal behavior.
All areas that you're key in already.
You never stop learning to learn.
Good stuff. You mentioned one of these earlier. Spiders, snakes, bats, or mice? Which is your least favorite?
Bats.
I hear you. Famous person alive today whom you'd love to have lunch with?
Seth and Todd.
One of these days we'll make that happen.
Looking forward to it.
Favorite summer activity?
Baseball and tennis.
Neat. Prefer to read hard copies of newspapers or online?
Online.
Okay, this one you may have already told me. It might be neither. Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Dark.
Okay, that's the health.
More antioxidants.
That's the healthier one. Yep. Hey, this has been fantastic. Anything else you'd like to share before we close out here that we haven't covered?
Yeah, I'm excited about coming back, and I'm available at 5:00 today, so we could certainly reconvene. But I think that for the audience, what's so fascinating about the construction industry is that it changes not every year and not every 3 or 4 years. It changes every day. There is so much to learn about all the products and services. And don't limit yourself to just one category unless it's Isaiah Industries. I think that it's without being cute, it's really important to study the market. You need to read the trade journals, whether in print with paper, or hardcover, or certainly digitally. And I think that by staying abreast of the news, it's very helpful. I would encourage everybody who's listening to get involved with their local home builders association. 650 local home builders association is part of the National Association of Home Builders. I'm reminded of E pluribus unum, from many one, and the more strength we have as an industry, the more we can accomplish in Congress.
Yep.
And I think that as you continue to embody the continued growth, look for constantly improving the products and services that you're offering as an audience. And I learned, growing up in our family business, you're never established until you've sold your last product or service. Don't assume that you're on top of the world. You're on top of the world. You get kicked down very easily. Or as Satchel Paige would say, don't look back. They're gaining on you. Look forward. Be forward. And grow with your business. It's certainly been a pleasure. And as you can imagine, Seth and Todd, I could spend another hour and a half with you without a break. And it's probably been good for you, where we've had, a change of venue with the technological points today.
Sure.
But I would also share with you my favorite quote, which you didn't ask within the 7. Somerset Maugham says it best. Mediocre people are always at their best.
Good stuff.
Thank you very much.
This has been great. Thank you very much. A wealth of wisdom and insight. This will be a great episode for our listeners and viewers. Thank you so much, and we'll certainly do this again sometime. How would folks go about contacting you if they're interested? What's their best way?
It's very thoughtful of you. Our operators are standing by right now. The office is 303-500-3400. And my cell phone, and Seth, you'll like this. I spell cell for my cell phone, SELL. And that's the fastest way to get a hold of me at area code 303-601-5840. Area code 303-601-5840. I'm also accessible, typically I'd say probably 24/7, 7 days a week. So if anybody wants to call on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, I'd be happy to take their calls. Email Robert at North Star Synergies, Robert at NorthStarSynergies.com. That's .com. And our offices are in the city and county of Denver at 2000 South Colorado Boulevard, Suite 2000, Denver, Colorado 80222. And again, our operators are standing by right now.
Well, hopefully we'll have some folks contact you. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Have a great day. Nice meeting you all. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for tuning into this episode of Construction Disruption with our guest, Robert August of North Star Synergies. We invite you, please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We've got lots of great guests coming up in future weeks. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Until then, we encourage everyone, change the world for someone, make them smile, bring them some encouragement, bring them hope. These are all very powerful things that we can do to change the world one simple interaction at a time. God bless. Take care. Isaiah Industries signing off. Until the next episode of Construction Disruption.